Well, welcome, Mitch.
I'm so glad to be here. Entrepreneurship and side hustles are totally my jam.
Perfect. Well, tell us about your jolly old company, hiresanta.com, how it came to be, how you even came up with such a unique idea.
Yeah, well, Hire Santa, we're the best place to find and hire Santa Claus. We
Nice.
staff Santa Claus entertainers around the world. We help brands associate themselves with Christmas through the use of Santa, Mrs. Claus, other holiday entertainers. And, it started out as entirely a side hustle and an accidental business. I've been an entrepreneur for my entire life.
Okay.
And one of my executive assistants asked me to dress up like Santa and hand out Christmas gifts and bonuses at a Christmas party.
Oh, fun.
And
And you were up to the
yeah,
challenge.
I looked terrible. I mean, terrible. I would not hire myself back then. But it was a ton of fun.
Nice. So then,
So yeah, I just enjoyed it. And my wife asked me to dress up like Santa and hand out at a cookie decorating party for our two young daughters at the time,
okay.
and thoroughly enjoyed that. I thought I was like pouring love into them, but the love and Christmas is just like they reflected it and magnified the love and joy of Christmas back to me. I had a good friend that then asked me to do the same thing for their young children.
Wow.
And then people started to want to pay me. And I'm like, oh, as an entrepreneur, I'm like, oh, somebody wants to pay me to do this. And a lot of research. And then though you can't look at me now and say, oh, you look like Santa.
Right.
I'm an all-in person, and think Tim Allen and the Santa Claus movies, glue on beard,
Wow.
fat suit, everything. I became a pretty good Santa. I've been in national TV commercials, one of the largest holiday parades, in the world.
Really?
And been Santa for just, celebrities in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, very wealthy people. And I got so much business, I couldn't deal with it myself.
Okay.
So as an entrepreneur, I was already in the internet marketing space. So I bought several domains, including hiresanta.com, and started doing sort of what I knew to do from an internet marketing standpoint, generated leads. It got to the point where we have more leads than we had Santas. So it's about getting more Santas, creating a network, and then also really fell in love with the Santa community. It's a very vibrant, very close community. And that's one of the things I think is of our strengths at Hire Santa is not only are we a professional organization to companies and our clients, but to the Santa community, we're part of that community and we contribute to it. And then one thing another, got on Shark Tank, been on that a couple of times, and and now it's a sort of my full-time gig. I've sold most of my other companies, and this is the company that is now my main hustle.
Nice. You mentioned Shark Tank. How did that go?
It was such a great experience, and anybody who has a business, if has some entertainment value to it, I would so recommend getting on Shark Tank. It's a great experience. I was there in 2018 and got to deal with Barbara Corcoran.
Nice.
It's a 9-month process. It's interesting about Shark Tank is over 40,000 people apply. About 1,000 of those make it to the next round. And then they end up about 100 or 120 200 end up being filmed, and 100, 120 end up being on air.
Okay.
So we got to deal with Barbara. It was a great experience. And then we had an update in 2018.
Okay.
2019. We had an update. And then we might be having an update this year in 2023 as well.
Lovely. Well, I think if you don't mind, I'm going to put those links in the show notes, because I did see
Great.
one clip where you walked in with all these Santas.
Yeah.
And it was quite impressive. And of course, I guess that's part of it, is the visual aspect for not only the sharks, but the viewers especially.
It is. And that's it. What people have to realize is that first and foremost, it's entertainment. And
right.
I knew, like my other companies, they would not be a Shark Tank company, but I knew Hire Santa. When I did the initial pitch at the Dallas Small Business Expo, me and 500 other people, like I even to the junior producer, I like visualize this, me walking in with 20 Santa Claus entertainers, me dressed as an elf with 20 Santas. Like that's just entertaining to begin with. And then, I had a good story, I had a company. Most companies that get on Shark Tank are product-based companies. They sell something physical. I think less than 5%, maybe it's 3%, are service-based companies, because it's just, they don't sell as well after the fact. It's harder for a service company to sort of benefit. Yes. But for me, it was the third-party validation, as well as the millions of dollars worth of advertising that being on Shark Tank, and then all the reruns that come from it. And now it's brand recognition that a small business just can't get. You can't get that kind of recognition. You just can't afford it as a small business.
And there's no cost for you to get into Shark Tank, is there? Other than all the costs of actually getting there and the setup and all that. And your 20 Santas.
There's not, they don't pay for virtually anything. Like, they don't pay for your set. You got to pay for all of that. The Santas that were there, they don't pay for those Santas to be there. So there's expense associated with that.
Can you tell us what deal you ended up with?
Yeah, I ended up with a deal with Barbara Corcoran. I went in on the air and wanting 10% of the business for $200,000. And we ended up with that deal. But there was in addition to that, I guarantee that we would pay back the initial amount sooner than that. So, but yeah, I got to deal with Barbara, and it's been great ever since. Matter of fact, I was speaking with her team earlier today about doing a podcast with her. And so, so we're going to, it's been a great relationship, and the credibility of having a deal with a shark is invaluable. Inevitably, whenever somebody's in a marketing room and they're needing a Santa, and they're like, well, where are we going to get a Santa? Somebody in the room has said, wasn't there a Santa Claus company on Shark Tank? They Google it, and inevitably they end up at our website, hiresanta.com.
That's fabulous. What kind of demand are you seeing this year?
Yeah, this year's bigger than ever. I think people are entirely over COVID. No one has mentioned COVID this year. Even last year, there was some mention of it. Our number of people reaching out to us is up over 35% year over year. And the number of events that we've actually already booked, and this is over 52% higher than last year. So we're seeing small businesses, in particular, small, medium-sized businesses. I think that, you hear this, that there's a recession coming or there's other things, but I think small businesses are doing well, and they're doing customer appreciation events. They're wanting to associate their brands with Christmas by using Santa more than ever before.
Wow. Well, I understand your site has added over, is it 1,100 Santa Claus entertainers this year?
Yeah, just this year. Our limiting factor, and whenever I talk with small businesses, I often talk to them about, like, what's holding them back, or what's their limiting factor associated with this. And Hire Santa is different than any other business that I've dealt with, and that we have the demand. And so it's now, how can we better service that demand? How can we meet that demand better? And we need more Santa Claus entertainers. And so we spend all year, all year, we spend all year to generate more Santa Claus entertainers. We go to Santa Claus schools, conventions. We're very active online, sort of traditional recruiting type things, and being part of the Santa community. And we've added over 1,100 Santas this year alone. And yet we're still sold out for weekends already.
Wow. Through till Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. You've mentioned the Santa community a couple of times. I did not know there was a Santa community. That's pretty nice. I got to mention one thing, though. I did first learn about it when, about a year ago, I had the pleasure of sitting down with one of your Santas, Melissa Rickard. It was episode 29. And she talked about the community, and I was thinking, I would have never known. But it sounds like you're a pretty tight-knit group.
Yeah, it is. And Melissa's tremendous. She's one of a select few female Santa Clauses. And she's really great and a wonderful person. The community is pretty small. I mean, I don't know the exact number of professional Santa Claus entertainers, but let's say 7,000 or 10,000 professional Santa Claus entertainers, which, when you think about it, is a very small number. That's not a big number at all. And probably half of those, or 3/4 of those, are like identify as Santa year round. Like they have a beard, they dress in red, their
Okay.
car is red, they go on cruises with Santas, they go to Santa schools or conventions, and there's usually a couple of big ones every year that have 300 to 600 Santas at them, and then there's probably a dozen or more that have 100 to 200 Santas, and there's probably another 50 or so really small gatherings throughout the year that have anywhere from 10 to 50 Santas that are there. So and on Facebook, we have a private Facebook group just for our Santa Claus entertainers that I do a broadcast for every other week, say to the season, talk about what's going on in the Santa community and
Right.
what's going on.
That-
We launched that during COVID, really to give information to the community. And well, it's one of our sort of core values is be part of the Santa community and to give back to the Santa community. I teach at these events and schools about whether working with agencies or doing home visits or just a variety of things as well. So it is a pretty tight community.
And it sounds like there's a real Santa culture. Who knew?
Yeah.
And when you mentioned the conferences, I just had this vision in my mind of one of the group pictures and seeing hundreds of Santas in one group photo.
And that's exactly what it is. The group photo has 500 Santas all in red.
Yep.
And yeah, that's what it looks like.
And the episode artwork for Melissa's episode 29 is a picture of her as Santa. And you would never know that she's not male. I mean, she looks like
Yeah.
your typical Santa. So that was really sweet. Well, what's the criteria for being accepted as a Santa on your site?
Yeah. So generally speaking, it's real beard, real belly, real jolly. Most over the last 20 years or so, there's definitely been a movement to real bearded Santas. And that's what Hire Santa generally provides, real bearded Santas. But in addition to looking like Santa, real beard, real belly, real jolly, most of our Santas, as we talked about, are like, this is their persona. This is who they are year round. It's that twinkle in their eye. It's that love in their heart for Christmas. That's really what we're hunting for in our Santas. Not only do you look like it, but you act like it. And that's who you come across as, whether you're sitting in the chair at a mall or walking down a grocery aisle.
All right. So just to clarify then, so you're looking for people with actually grown in beards, not people that are just putting on a beard. Is that correct?
That's right. Now, I mean, and it's sort of, I mean, I still do one of the Dallas Holiday Parade, which is one of the biggest parades in the world. And I'm not a real bearded Santa. I'm a
Right.
glue on beard Santa. Think like Tim Allen and the Santa Claus movies. But generally speaking, there aren't that many what I'm going to call designer beard Santas or fake beard Santas that go to that level.
Okay.
Like those Santas, we'll hire them out all day because most of the time they're really great entertainers who then happen to be doing Santa Claus. But for the most part, like when people go to hiresanta.com, they're really looking for a real bearded Santa. And so that's what we're hunting for.
So people like Melissa might be the exception then.
Yeah, she's the exception. And there are others, like, again, it's a handful of people that we would hire out that are not real bearded.
But you're looking for and getting requests for more diversity in Santas, aren't you?
Absolutely. Ever since we appeared on Shark Tank in 2018, and we had 2 Black Santas on, intentionally in the Shark Tank room with us.
Okay.
Since then, we've seen a dramatic increase, and I think we're probably part of that, where people are looking for Santa Claus entertainers that look or speak like they do, whether it be a Black Santa, whether it be a Spanish-speaking Santa. We have ASL Santas, American Sign Language Santas. We even have, in one of which is actually deaf. I think he's probably the only one. We send him around the country to a number of special locations, and they have a deaf Santa comes in and bring in deaf schools and other people who speak ASL. And it's a really great way that we can include them in this holiday tradition.
That's awesome. And as far as hiring Santas and placing them, is that strictly around the US or do you go into North America, global? What's your reach?
We'll send Santas anywhere. It's interesting that people have, particularly in North America, everywhere outside of Europe, people have the Coca-Cola version of Santa. The American version is Santa for them. And so when they're wanting to hire Santa, they'll reach out to us and say, we want an American Santa. and then we will literally send them to Asia or the Middle East. We've sent one of our great clients is Ski Dubai. It's literally a ski slope in the middle of the desert. It's 26 degrees, and
Man.
Santa's got to bundle up and take lots of warm clothes because he's literally in an ice cave. But they want an American version of Santa, and English is spoken so
It's so
well
prevalent
throughout
there.
the
Yeah.
world
Yep.
that doesn't seem to be a barrier. When they get out, they usually will have a translator with them, but that hasn't been a problem.
Yeah. So in that particular case, it was U.S. Santa that went over to Dubai. Was that the
Yeah,
idea?
actually two. We send two every year
Okay.
to Ski Dubai, and they're getting ready to head out already this year. We sent to China, the Caribbean, Canada, of course, but just we'll send a Santa anywhere people want.
Okay. And are you looking to recruit Santas just from the US or in other locations as well?
We have a few Santas from Europe. Europe has a different version. There's sort of Father Christmas, which
Hmm.
really is a big fake beard, not sort of the even what you would see here in the US. It's a
Hmm.
Father Christmas look. Russia has a slightly different look as well. Like we have Santas all over the world, but it's really more US based than
Okay.
anything else. And when people want a Santa, it's the American version of Santa. And we send audition tapes out to people all over the world every year, and they're looking for that Coca-Cola American version of Santa.
Right. Okay. So assume that I have a real beard and I've been accepted as you and I'm in your database, and a prospective client reaches out to you and you put in whatever keywords, and from your database, maybe 5 names pop up, including mine. What happens at that point?
So we have a client. Once we have a client who wants one of our Santa Claus entertainers, we will find the Santa who is nearest to that location, because sending a Santa can be very expensive. We have to do
Sure.
that for some full season events, but for an hour-long event or a day-long event, you're going to want somebody very close. So in our database, we look up literally by zip code. Where's the event? Where's the Santas within 5 or 10 or 20? We can expand it out as far as we want. And we
Sure.
try to find the Santas that are close to the event and then that have availability. And that's the hard part of the job right now, is trying to match up an event with the availability of the Santas, because most of the events that people want are on those Saturdays or Sundays in December.
Right. Okay. You would send out a proposal or something to the 5 of us, or
We actually will tell the Santa, say, here's the job, here's the date, time, location, and pay
okay.
for the event.
All right.
Or do you want this? And then the Santa is welcome to say yes, or they can say, oh, I've already got something booked. But we let them then decide if they want that event. We will send that out to, if there's say 5 Santas, we'll send that out to those 5 Santas, say, hey, here's an event. Are you available? Would you like to do this event? Generally, it's the first one that gets back to us is the Santa then that we book for that event.
Sure. And then what, I know it's going to vary, and maybe you can speak to this, what I could expect to earn per gig.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it definitely varies.
Yeah, whether it's around the corner or whether it's Dubai.
Yeah, and it depends if it's a season-long event where you're working 200 or 300 hours from the first weekend in November through Christmas Day, or is this a 1-hour event in New York City? It varies greatly on those types of things. Generally speaking, a professional Santa, a Santa who's going to work, do as much work as they can do. We did this really big Santa survey this last year, over 1,200 Santas in it. And, a good professional Santa can earn $7,000 to $15,000 during the 6 weeks or so that the holiday season spans.
Okay. All right. And again, like you said, if you're booking somebody for 200 hours or just a couple hours locally, yeah, that's going to make a big difference.
It all adds up basically the same. If you're willing to work a lot of hours, that whether you work them continuously at a mall or they're broken up into little bitty 1-hour slots, the amount of money you make is probably going to be about the same. It's the type of work. Like lots of people don't want to do the driving necessary to go to gigs. Oh, you got to go to this event. You got to finish this 1-hour event. Got to drive 30 minutes to this other 2-hour event. All right, got to drive to another, and it's a lot of driving and it's a lot of wear and tear, as opposed to a mall or type of event where you show up, you're sitting at the same spot every day. a lot of consistency in that. So, and you even before the season starts, you really know how much you're going to make and exactly what you're going to be doing.
Can you give me a ballpark of what that would be an hour?
Yeah, so mall Santas typically are $25 to $55 an hour, again, depending on the client and the location.
Sure.
And so, yeah, that's generally what a Santa will do if they're a full season Santa entertainer.
Yes. Yeah, and thanks for sharing that survey with me, Mitch. I'm going to add a link to the show notes about that as well, because there's so much good information there. If someone's serious about wanting to be a Santa Claus. And there was a number of things that jumped out at me. But one, and I understood that you surveyed over 1,200 people. You got that many responses back?
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
surveyed everyone in our database as well as the Santa community, and we were actually pretty impressed. Last year we did, I think, 700 or 800, and our goal was to get 1,000, and we ended up over 1,200. So it was really great.
Great. And that speaks to, again, your community. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I noticed that there was like 13.8% of the people had over 51 gigs. That's a busy Santa. Over 20% were doing 26 to 50 gigs in a season. That's pretty
It's a lot of
impressive.
gigs. So we have Santas that do some over 75 gigs in a year, and they start in October, like photo events where you have a photographer who is wanting to get like Christmas cards with Santa. And so we'll do
Right.
these photo sessions, and then it goes into November, and then and then into December, and then even Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So it just keeps on going. And if you want to work and you're willing to do it, the work's out there. Speaking of which, like, I think that being Santa, it's a great side hustle. Like, for a Santa, when you think about it, like, being a Santa Claus entertainer is just a really great side hustle, whether you're retired and you just want to get some extra income, but you're also being active and being part of your community and spreading the love and joy of Christmas. It's a terrific side hustle itself.
And there was a good percentage of Santas in that survey that were like 35 years old, in that range,
Yes,
35 and up.
that's good to see, because we lost a great number of Santa Claus entertainers during COVID, more than sort of just a normal. Because as you can imagine,
Yes.
COVID is hard on this community because of age. Our average age is 65, I think, around that age. And then you also have some of our Santas are jolly, and also then have other sort of underlying health conditions that, when you get COVID, are a negative outcome. It can happen. And so we lost a great number of Santas in 2020 and 2021.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that in a number of industries and organizations.
Mhm.
When you spoke about Santa pictures in, say, October, that reminded me of this summer. And where I live, it can get really hot in the summer. They were shooting a Hallmark Christmas movie. And there's Santa. This was like July, and I'm thinking, oh man, I hope they're paying that person a lot of money to do that.
Yeah,
Well, speaking of the suits, et cetera, what would somebody be looking at in terms of, well, startup costs?
it's not cheap. The average Santa we have has 3 or more Santa suits, and each of the suits, you can get a good quality off the rack suit for $300 or $400, but you probably need a better belt, and you need better boots that come with those things. So it's easily $1,000. And I tell you, when you go to these Santa conventions, in the vendor room, it's full of people offering high quality Santa suits and a variety of Santa paraphernalia. So you can definitely spend the money. I mean, and easily spend $2,000 on a custom made
Mhm.
Santa suit.
Right. So quite a little bit of a range there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I owned a self-storage facility, our manager advised me that one of our customers was a Santa. And he was hired, this Santa, to ride a gondola for a private company that had a restaurant and stuff at the top of the gondola. And he was hired for like a couple of weeks, a few weeks before Christmas. And it was actually kind of fun. I ended up talking him into doing a photo shoot at our place, and we made it look like that's where Santa was storing all the toys and the gifts until Christmas Eve. It was so much fun. But with the storage facility, before I got involved in it, I could only think of maybe 2 or 3 reasons people would want to store. But once I got in the industry, I was like, oh man, there's like so many people that so many reasons people store stuff. And when I think of Santas, I think of the ones sitting in malls, maybe a parade. But I would imagine that there are a whole lot of opportunities that most people aren't aware of. What are some of the
Yeah,
ones that maybe we don't think of as opportunities for a Santa?
I think that's a great use of a Santa Claus entertainer for your marketing, right? You did,
Mm,
whether it be a photo shoot or social, and now with social media, that would just, I think, play really well. And right, every storage unit should be having a Santa Claus come out and take
yep,
photos of a storage unit filled with toys, and that, this is the official storage unit of Santa. So I think that having, there are so many. So whether it be photos with Santa
okay,
or a photographer, customer appreciation events. We see those, lots of realtors have those. They'll have in a sort of a show home or a home that they have for sale. They'll, all their past clients, they'll have Santa, they'll have a photographer, and they'll come in and let you take pictures with Santa at that type of event.
right,
Even Christmas parties, whether it just be all adults or families, we get lots of those. Country clubs, every country club has a breakfast with Santa type of event that goes on. You mentioned parades. Small towns generally have a Christmas event of some sort that includes Santa, Mrs. Claus, live reindeer, sometimes just all types of other holiday entertainment.
yeah,
But and preschools, schools and preschools, they're a client. You think of zoos, arboretums, anywhere that is trying to drive traffic or
right.
is having some sort of holiday experience will also include a Santa Claus.
What's one of your most unique requests that you've received for a Santa?
So we get all kinds of unique requests. I actually personally did an event for a water park, and they had a zip line that went over across the entire park. So here you imagine Santa is on this zip line waving to the crowd and then you have doing it 2 or 3 times to get a variety of takes.
Right.
So that was sort of an interesting one. But yeah, you get some crazy ones. We get also requests that we turn down. We don't do bad Santa. We get a handful of those every single year where somebody's wanting a bad Santa to come in. We also get requests for them to do adult parties. Some Santas will do adult parties, but a lot of Santas don't want to do that because it's not about Santa. It's just about having some sort of entertainer walking around,
Right.
and that's not the type of event everyone wants to do. But yeah, we get, if you can imagine it, every bad idea we've gotten it.
Well, is there anything else that someone should know who's thinking about being a Santa as a side hustle?
Yeah. So being a Santa, I mean, it's a ton of fun, but it's actually work. People
Yeah.
underestimate how physically and mentally draining it can be to be Santa, because you're sitting in a chair, you're seeing, a large number of children, and for that child coming up to you and talking to you as Santa, that's their one moment. And so you got to be on, you got to be high energy, you got to be, and so and you might do that for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours in a day. And so it's mentally and physically draining to do it. We talk to our Santas pre-season and leading up to it and during the season to stay in shape, to hydrate, to make sure they're taking their vitamins. If they are getting vaccinated, to make sure they get those things before the season starts, and to continue to take time off, to create space in your schedule where you're getting a day off to not only clean your suits and those types of things, but also just to rest your body, because it is one of the issues that we have to deal with at Hire Santa is our mall Santas getting sick or not being able to
Yes.
fill their position. So we have to have backup Santas that we then send in and take their place if they get the flu or COVID. And COVID's worse because it's now not just a couple of days maybe for the flu, but it can be a week or 2. And so we have to, that's one of our big challenges. But as somebody who's coming into being Santa, it's just like getting ready for, physically and mentally ready for the grind that it can be. And then also
Okay.
we call it sort of the Santa blues. Then on the 25th or 26th, you're like, oh, season's over. It's a year until I get to do it again. Sort of this post Santa depression that comes about.
I could see that because when I was on the road, which I was lots more before doing seminars, you kind of felt that like that night or the next morning. It's you had this crowd to work with, and now you're on your own. And so is that where the community steps up then?
You're able to talk through the things that you're going through, as
Hmm.
well as stay connected. There already on the books in January are several of these post Christmas get-togethers where people just come together for breakfast or for lunch and just talk about their holiday season and the good, the bad, and the ugly with what just happened.
Right. Nice. Well,
Yeah.
what's next for hiresanta.com?
Well, I mean, it's continually growing. We've bought a couple of companies, other Santa Claus agencies over the last couple of years. We bought Santa Claus and Company, which is the oldest Santa Claus staffing company in the world. They've been continually operating for over 50 years. And then we bought I'm Santa last year. So we're looking for other types of either Santa staffing agencies or just general entertainment agencies that we're looking to acquire, as well as this year we launched Hire Mariachis. It seems very different from what we're doing, but from the back end, everything's the same. And a number of our clients have asked us to help in this regard. So we've launched Hire Mariachis and we're starting to provide those as well. So it's really just about continue doing what we're doing, having fun, spreading the love and joy of Christmas to millions of people around the world.
Nice. Well, by mariachis, you mean like mariachi bands?
Like mariachi bands.
Wow, fun.
Yep. You can go to hiremariachis.com.
I wonder how many more higher whatevers you're going to get involved in. Well, what's the best way for our listeners to connect with you, Mitch? Or to register as a Santa?
Either way, it's hiresanta.com. We've got a contact form there, and that's always the best way to reach us. And then we're fairly active on almost all social media through Hire Santa.
Nice. Well, you certainly have pretty much all your adult life a history of businesses and entrepreneurship. So, what's your best tip for someone to start or grow their side hustle?
Yeah, when I talk with entrepreneurs, I speak to a number of entrepreneurs every year and travel the country. The main thing, and talking with people who haven't taken that leap to full time, it's always just do it. Like, don't make plans, don't do whatever. It is just take the first step. Like, you can just plan yourself to death. So go out there and sell and see if you have product market fit. See if somebody's going to pay you money. Everybody will tell you it's a great idea, but will they give you a $20 bill or will they give you $1,000 to do something? So don't just talk about it. Just go out and do it. If you think about it as a game, like it can be addictive in terms of, wow. I remember buying and selling baseball cards and comic books when I was a kid and in college, and then flipping houses in grad school. Like it wasn't for the money. It was because it was just fun to do. And I think just get out there and just do it. And then once you do it, you have some success, you figure out what's worked, then you can worry about, do I need to incorporate a business? Do I need to do all the things that, mentally you're thinking stop you from actually taking that first step?
Yeah. So get on with the action, and who knows, at some point, maybe somebody's going to be offering you $200,000 for 10% of your company.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much, Mitch, for sharing your Hire Santa story, your insights into the opportunities that exist for aspiring Santas, and of course, for being today's side hustle hero.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
If you go out and line up your own Santa gigs, or any gig for that matter, you'll make more money than if an agent lined up the gig for you. Makes sense, right? Because you've taken the time and effort to get the job. Whereas if the agent hands you the job, they're dealing with the client and all the logistics and the payment. You just need to show up and do an awesome job. The agency needs to be paid for their work, so you make less, typically a lot less. When I was a full-time speaker and trainer, I produced my own events as well as received a lot of work from an agency. At my own events, I made way more money, but I also did all the marketing and the advertising, the logistics and the hiring. It was a lot of work, especially for a weekend event. When I got booked by the agency, I just showed up, I breezed in and did my presentation. They looked after everything, dealing with the hotel, the registrations, the staff for the day or the weekend, travel arrangements, all of it. So it makes sense that I earned a smaller percentage of that. So my solution? I did both. I did my own gigs, plus accepted jobs through the agency because there were pros and cons to both. The agency got me into cities and countries that I might not have gotten into on my own. If you're seriously considering becoming a Santa as a side hustle, I encourage you to check out episode 29 with Melissa Rickard because she's a working Santa and describes people in the Santa community earning in excess of $40,000. She's also really inspirational. Well, that's a wrap for today. You'll find the links that Mitch and I mentioned and the full show notes on our website, sidehustlehero.com. If you're enjoying this podcast, I'd be so grateful if you would subscribe and take a moment to leave a comment and say hello. This will help others know that there's valuable content here that'll help them start or grow their side hustle. Thanks for watching, and hustle on.